Hello, science people. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about how allergies work, how histamines and antihistamines work, and in doing so, we're going to talk about receptor proteins and the substrates that bind to them. Let's jump right into talking about allergies. So what is an allergy? Well, an allergy is the body overreacting to something that would normally be harmless. Let's use a pollen allergy as our first example. There's pollen all throughout the air. Plants are throwing up pollen, it blows in the wind, and if you're not allergic to pollen, that means that pollen goes in your nose and your body doesn't see it as a threat, your body just ignores it, because pollen for the most part is harmless to us. But if you have a pollen allergy, that means your body is overreacting to it. Your body thinks it's a threat. So you're walking around, you breathe in this pollen, and your body goes, "Whoa, we're under attack. Let's fight." And so your body then releases histamines. So what is a histamine? Well, a histamine is your body's chemical message that says we are under attack. We need to start protecting ourselves. So this pollen enters your nose and you release histamines. So the histamines diffuse throughout your body, it goes through your blood, it diffuses everywhere, and it's going to bind to receptor proteins on your cells. And we'll talk more about how all that works in a little bit. But the histamines bind to the receptors of the cells, and then the cells activate your immune response. There are a few different histamine receptors. We call them H1, H2, H3, H4, and depending on which receptor receives the histamine, that is how your body will react. When you get pollen in your nose and your body overreacts releasing histamine, your body defends itself by sneezing. Your body says, there's an invader in our nose, let's start sneezing. And so the histamines tell your cells to start creating boogers and mucus and snot and start sneezing it out. And so that mucus is gonna trap whatever the invader is, in this case pollen. You're gonna sneeze and sneeze and sneeze, trying to get all of it out of there. You might also raise your temperature a little bit. You might start sweating, and that's your body's way of squeezing things out of your skin. And so all of the reactions that are happening because you're having an allergy attack is your body's self-defense. It is your body's reaction to a foreign invader. The problem is, pollen is not a foreign invader. So an allergy makes you feel sick even though you're not sick because it is overreacting. Pretty much the same thing is happening with a food allergy. Let's say that you are allergic to a specific type of food. When you eat that food, your body goes, "Whoa, we're under attack. There's a foreign invader in my body." And so your body releases the histamines, and those histamines will diffuse throughout your body. They will bind to receptor proteins, either H1, H2, H3, or H4 receptor proteins, and then they will react. Your body will respond based on which receptor proteins are receiving the histamines. And in this case, in a food allergy, that could mean that you start throwing up. That might mean close up your throat. That might mean start hyperventilating, making your lungs tighter. All of this is actually a self-defense mechanism trying to save you from a foreign invader. It doesn't sound like you're being saved. It doesn't feel like you're being saved, but that is your body's immune response to a foreign invader entering your body. You're gonna try and throw it up. You're gonna try and get rid of it because you're under attack. The problem is, you're not under attack. You just ate a common food, but your body is allergic to it, meaning that your body overreacts, thinking it is being attacked by this foreign invader. Okay, so let's talk about how these receptor proteins work that are waiting for the histamine to interact with them. So all throughout your body, you have these cells, and on your cells, there's going to be these receptor proteins. They're waiting to receive a message in their binding site. And so all of these receptor proteins have a binding site that is a specific shape. We call this the lock and key. And so somewhere out there, there's a substrate that fits perfectly into that binding site. So anything that will fit into that binding site, we call a substrate. In our case, in the situation that we are talking about histamines. And so the histamine in this situation is the substrate that is going to bind to that binding site and then trigger your immune response. And so those histamines are diffusing throughout your body, and they will just stick to any binding site that they run into. When that histamine goes into that binding site, then that receptor protein is going to release a message that then tells your body to start feeling sick, to start sneezing, to do whatever the immune response wants it to do in order to protect you. So again, in our situation with the pollen, you breathe in pollen, your body freaks out, you release histamines, the histamines diffuse throughout your body. Those histamines will find their way into binding sites, which then trigger that receptor protein to release the message to your cells that now begin the immune response. So that is what a histamine is. In most cases, when it comes to allergies, we do not want histamines. We do not want histamines running through our body, making us feel sick. And so what we do is we take an antihistamine. An antihistamine is a competitive inhibitor. And so it has the same shape to fit into the binding site that a histamine would fit into. And so what we do is we take allergy medicine. Allergy medicine is an antihistamine. Now, if that antihistamine lands into the binding site and takes up that spot, the histamine can no longer go there. And so when you take antihistamines, they are blocking the binding sites that the histamines are trying to go to. And now it blocks you from feeling sick. So you are blocking those spots. Whenever you take something that blocks the binding site, we call this competitive inhibition. So an inhibitor is something that will inhibit a substrate from binding to a binding site. If they are fighting for the same spot, we will call that competitive inhibition. So antihistamines are competitive inhibitors that bind to the binding site of a receptor protein, blocking the histamines from being able to enter that location. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video learning all about allergies, how histamines and antihistamine works, and also receptor proteins and the substrates that bind to them. I will see you next time.